Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It is Friday, November 21st, 2025. This is Spathon bringing you another episode of The Swamp. Bill and Hillary Clinton, they have been delaying their depositions over the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, and Congress is now threatening contempt if they delay any longer. Republican Ohio Rep. Jim Jordan revealed a bombshell that the Biden DOJ seized his phone records in secret over the 2020 election. Democrat New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani was invited to meet with President Trump in the Oval Office today. And Aftyn Behn is a congressional candidate running for a district in Nashville. She's been under fire lately for saying she hates the city of Nashville, and now she's trying to walk back all those comments. John Ossoff previously said that taking campaign money from billionaires is quote-unquote corruption on steroids. But it's been revealed that Ossoff has been taking money from the George Soros Foundation all this time. House Resolution number 58 hit the floor today, which is a resolution to outright denounce socialism in America, and 98 Democrats voted against it. No surprise there. The Trump administration fulfilled their promise by awarding $10,000 to air traffic controllers who showed up for work during the entirety of the government shutdown. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving the video a quick like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the daily updates. And I might read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. And every article you'll see in the video will be linked in the description below. And also, if there's any government department, agency, office, official, or entity that you can think of that you haven't seen on this channel, just let me know in the comments and I will add them to my list. And this comes from Rep. Jim Jordan. They spied on President Trump. They spied on senators. Now, we just learned they spied on me. If they can do it to us, they can do it to you. And I'm sure they have done it to lots of us. So this is the grand jury subpoena attachment with regard to Verizon Communications. And it reads as follows: for any and all accounts associated with the following identifiers, and they've blacked out everything except for the area code 937. Provide the following records from January 1st, 2020 to the present: subscriber information, the names, addresses, the call detail records, the length of services, the means and sources of payment for each service, telephone or instrument numbers, such as like the ESN ID, the MIN ID, the MAC address, IMSI, like just all the serial numbers with regard to mobile devices, records of session times and durations, and other subscriber numbers or identities. And the note says, in lieu of personal appearance, you may comply with this subpoena by providing the requested documents in electronic format to Brian Burnett, Senior Special Agent for the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General. If you choose to comply with the subpoena by producing the materials to a federal agent, please also review and execute the attached certification under Federal Rules of Evidence, 803, Section 6, and 902, Section 11. And the order reads, this matter having come before the court pursuant to an application under 18 U.S.C. 2705, Section B, requesting an order directing Verizon Wireless Provider, an electronic communication and remote computing service provider located in Bedminster, New Jersey, not to notify any other person of the existence of subpoena number, very long number, issued by the United States on behalf of a federal grand jury impaneled in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, the subpoena. The court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution, destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. It is therefore ordered that pursuant to 18 U.S.C. Section 2705B, provider and its employees shall not disclose the existence of the subpoena to any other person except attorneys for provider for the purpose of receiving legal advice for a period of 1 year, commencing on the date of this order, unless the period of non-disclosure is later modified in court. So what? They're trying to suggest that Jim Jordan's a flight risk? I mean, that's what it sounds like in the order. Assuming that this is pertaining to him because Jim Jordan's talking about it. I don't see his name specifically mentioned on here, so I guess I'm just going to have to take his word for it. But, I mean, this is his official government profile. This is him posting on this about the Biden administration subpoenaing his phone records, effectively spying on him, or seizing his phone records, more like it. So anyway, That's going on. And this is also from Rep. Jim Jordan, posted 22 hours ago. He's on Sean Hannity, of course. So let's give this a listen.
We have major breaking news and new developments tonight as the Arctic frost scandal continues to unravel. Now, it turns out it wasn't just sitting U.S. senators and Republican operatives around the country and groups like Turning Point that were targeted. It was also Jim Jordan. Tonight, our team has exclusively reviewed documents obtained by Jim Jordan showing that in 2022, lawyers running the Arctic frost investigation had subpoenaed Verizon for Jim Jordan's complete phone records going all the way back to January of 2020 for an investigation that was supposed to be about January 6, 2021. That's not all. They also wanted his address, his payment information, and the unique identifiers of all of his devices. And to top it all off, the subpoena came with a court order of secrecy. Verizon was not allowed to tell anyone about the data requests because a court somehow determined that, quote, disclosure will result in flight from prosecution or witness intimidation. A Verizon spokesperson tells us they are working with the House and Senate on this issue and says, quote, we uncovered new information regarding Chairman Jordan. We shared it with him as soon as possible. We are committed to restoring trust through transparency. And just in case you forgot, Jim Jordan, not exactly some criminal mastermind that you got to worry about him fleeing to another country. He is and was during all of this a sitting member of the House of Representatives
I had to do a second take. Like, what?
House
Flight for prosecution? Are you fucking
Committee.
insane?
He joins us right now. Well, I think I said to you, it's only a matter of time that your name's coming up. And
of course.
Probably right behind
this ain't going to be the last time either.
You, my phone number and contacts were in the information they got. I want a lawsuit.
Yeah, well, Sean, we say this all the time, but I mean, the only thing
and the Democrats going to bash him too, just like the 8 senators.
It's always worse than we thought. So think about this. We know they spied on President Trump. Then we learned it's senators and the Speaker of the House. And now we learned they were spying on me for 2.5 years. I mean,
what?
Think about
2.5 years?
All the way back, as you said, to January of 2020. They gathered information that told them who I called, who called me, when we called each other, when the call took place, how long the call was, and where I was at when I made that call. They got your location
GPS.
as well. And they gathered that for 28
That's probably why they wanted the serial numbers.
Months. This is how ridiculous this is and why we are doing everything to get to the bottom.
And what did they get out of it?
I bet there's a
Nothing.
bunch of other members of Congress, a bunch of other citizens like you,
just another
all
big
over
middle
this
finger to
country
Republicans.
that they were looking into, because this is the epitome of the weaponization of government against against the other party. President Trump, Republican, all the senators, the Speaker of the House, Republican, and of course the top Republican on the Judiciary Committee. That's how ridiculous this whole thing is.
So what should we be doing then? Should we just be fighting fire with fire, and the Trump administration should just start, getting a secret warrants and secret subpoenas to start subpoenaing every single Democrat squad member, all 98 of them who voted against that socialism resolution, which we'll get to later? Is that what we should start doing? And start doing all that crap in secret? Just playing from one side to the other? I don't know.
Thousands of my
of course, the answer is no, but what are we going to
do? Released to the public.
Great question.
They didn't get it from me. They never got it from me. I don't save text messages. I don't have an iCloud, but they end up putting putting it up there in hearings and in the newspapers.
I don't save it, but I don't delete
use it in criminal cases, of which I am not a party to. Now, do I deserve some degree of privacy? Do you deserve that? I think you do.
It's called the Bill of Rights. It's called the Fourth Amendment, for goodness sake. Of course you do.
Well, you're an elected
Our
official.
understanding of this subpoena is they got the time you sent the text, who you sent the text to, just like they would with the call.
Now, look, it's one thing as a government official. Everything's supposed to be cataloged. I can't remember who's in charge with cataloging all that, like which department in government, but everything's supposed to flow through a government entity when you have an official government account. I'm sure that also includes your cell phone, probably your office phone. It definitely includes your emails, because that's what got Hillary Clinton in hot water, because she was subverting that with those 33,000 emails. All of that was supposed to be captured on government servers, and obviously we know that she wasn't doing that because they had the private email server. So to some extent, like everything that Jim Jordan's doing as the capacity of an elected official, it's being cataloged in the government systems. But what exactly were they subpoenaing? It sounds like they were subpoenaing his private phone conversations, which he is allowed to have a personal life. So that's what it sounds like to me. That's probably what they were subpoenaing.
They did not get the contents of the text. But we know the January 6th committee got some context of text from you and from me and everyone else. So, but this subpoena was for when those texts were sent, not the actual contents of it. But what I want to know is who signed off on this ultimately? Did Chris Wray know about this? This is the Biden DOJ. Did Merrick Garland know about this? Because this subpoena was sent
of course they did.
in April of 2022. Did Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General, who signed off on this? This idea that you got one branch of government run by Democrats going after the legislative branch at the time run by Republicans.
They're going to spend 3 years chasing that answer.
That's how crazy this all is. So, look, we're going to keep gathering information. We're going to be ready for when we bring Jack Smith in for his deposition, because we're going to have a lot of questions for him.
Oh, yeah. And he's probably going to plead the fifth.
That
and we'll never get any answer.
Would result in a flight, that you might flee the country, or that you might intimidate witnesses. Who made that determination? Because that is
just being hyperbolic. It's just them being fucking drama queens.
The same people who said we're going to take Scott Perry's phone. The same people who said we're going to surveil a member of Congress, Scott Perry, for a week. Go find out where he works. Find out what kind of vehicle he drives. Get photos of his home, his car. I mean, those are the same people. It's this Wyndham guy that we referred yesterday to the Justice Department. He was the guy who signed off on that subpoena to get Scott Perry, a general in our Army, member of Congress for 14 years. It's that mindset that says anyone who's for President Trump is the enemy, and we're going after them. That's what they did. So people
this
say,
is why we need to downsize the
government.
This is ridiculous.
In any way, it's holding people accountable who did crazy, ridiculous things like Jack Smith, like
got too many people, too much money, too much time on their hands. Too many resources.
I'm sorry,
obviously.
Congressman, I really am, and I hope we get to the bottom of it. Why are they trying to take away a provision that would allow people like you and senators spied on illegally to sue the people involved?
Well, we passed legislation 2 days ago out of our committee that says you can't do these kind of gag orders. You can't have them for years and years. There's a higher threshold if you're going to issue these things. We're trying to push back on this in a big way. Maybe we need to tell these carriers, you can't do this at all. You can't. Maybe we need to look at that.
Yeah, you would think.
So this is, again, we have the thing called the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. We should be respecting that. I don't think the way these guys did, I don't think it does.
But what about the settlement payments, dude?
Legislation.
He's not going to answer
Chairman
that.
Jordan,
all right, he didn't answer that. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't really care one way or the other. I mean, I doubt that he's doing all this in the name of money. He's just doing it just to get to the bottom of what Democrats have been up to. And yeah, it's a big mess. And yeah, trying to set that precedent, I don't think that's something Democrats really want. But I think they're just either they're too stupid or they're too incompetent to really see that in the future. By setting a precedent like that, you know, that it's going to show up on the other side of the coin that you're going to now be spied on. And I'm sure that Democrats have a hell of a lot more dirt that could be dug up than Republicans. I mean, like that's just probably one of the most obvious statements I've ever said. Anyway, from Eric Daugherty, just in, Bill and Hillary Clinton are officially facing contempt of Congress proceedings if they refuse deposition next month for their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Rep. Comer, quote, further delays aren't acceptable given their Epstein ties. Avoiding Congress would be in defiance of subpoenas and warrant contempt proceedings. And we've got a letter here from, that's page 2 of 3. Where's page 1? That's not page 1. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we don't get a page 1. So Clinton have little to contribute to that legal goal, all of which can be readily submitted on paper. This, by the way, looks like it's either from or to Mr. E. Kendall. Given the admission that your clients possess some relevant information, your position amounts to a demand that the committee forego in-person testimony potentially relevant to its legislative oversight. The committee sets the terms of its oversight, including deciding which witnesses to interview, in what order to interview them, and whether or not to compel testimony in a time, place, and manner of its own choosing. Federal courts have consistently held that witnesses may not impose their own conditions upon the manner of congressional inquiry. That is because a witness does not have the legal right to dictate the conditions under which he will or will not testify, or to prescribe the conditions under which he may be interrogated by Congress. Simply put, the fact that other witnesses may have been afforded certain accommodations is not a defense to a congressional subpoena. The committee is not obligated to defer to either your or your client's determination regarding the importance or quantity of the information they possess, and it declines to do so. Rather, the committee is entitled to a fulsome examination of this information, which should include the ability to elicit the information in person and to ask relevant follow-up questions. While you argue that the committee has not provided a persuasive rationale for why deposing the Clintons is required to fulfill the mandate of your investigation, this mistakes the relevant standard. The committee need only conclude that deposing your clients would be helpful in advancing its investigation. Therefore, the committee does not find your argument against an in-person deposition in favor of written interrogatories compelling. Additionally, your suggestion that your client's testimony would not be relevant to the stated purpose of the committee's investigation because the events in question took place outside the Clintons' prospective official duties misses the committee's point. It is precisely the fact that President Clinton and Secretary Clinton each maintain relationships with Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell in their personal capacities as private citizens and is of interest to the committee. In sum, your arguments lack merit and completely ignore the lengthy rationales provided in the committee's October 22, 2025 letter. Accordingly, pursuant to the committee's August 5th of 2025 subpoena, depositions of President Clinton and Secretary Clinton are scheduled for the following dates. President Clinton, December 17, 2025 at 10 a.m. Secretary Clinton, December 18th, 2025 at 10 a.m. in Washington. See, I thought that they were originally scheduled to have their depositions like back in October. The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is the principal oversight committee of the U.S. House of Representatives and has broad authority to investigate any matter at any time under House Rule X. If you have any questions, please contact Committee on Oversight and Government Reform majority staff, and they got the phone number, and signed by James Comer, Chairman, Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. All right, so let's move to Rep. James Comer himself. Democrats and Republicans approved subpoenas in July for Bill and Hillary Clinton. After good faith efforts to schedule depositions, further delays aren't acceptable. Given their Epstein ties, avoiding Congress would be in defiance of subpoenas and warrant contempt proceedings. There's page 1. I don't know why they didn't include page 1 on the last post, but there it is. I don't know if you can actually read it on screen. You can pause it, read it. I mean, I'm just for the sake of limiting confusion, I'm not going to read the first page and just move on, but it's here on screen if you want to see it. And it is addressed to Mr. Kendall, by the way, and transmitted electronically from the Congress of the United States, House of Representatives, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. And this was it was sent to them today on November 21st. And I will actually, here, while I'm at it, I might as well repost it. So you can check the description below. There's a link to my profile if you want to look at that. Or you can go, oh, wait, no, hold on, wrong one. Hold on. Let me back up. Wait a minute. I did not mean to repost that one. Undo, and let's repost the correct one. The one from Rep. James Comer. This one, which is on my profile description below. Or you could just go straight to Rep. James Comer, his profile. He posted this 11 hours ago at 9:32 a.m. today. And this is from Rep. Anna Paulina Luna. Just a quick message that she posted. If the Clintons defy their subpoenas, there's only one thing to do. Jail time. Oh, yeah. Shit is getting spicy. Okay, Rapid Response 47. The president meets with NYC Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani in the Oval Office. We just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. Let's hear what President Trump has to say.
Just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against, a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart people. And he beat them easily.
Well,
and I congratulated him. And we talked about some
he's got the entirety of the Democrat machine behind him.
Common,
that's how he won.
Housing and getting housing built and food and prices. And the price of oil is coming way down. Anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York. And we've got them down.
Until they start taxing the shit out of it.
From last year, we have, as you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, Walmart said that Thanksgiving this year is exactly 25% less than last year. So that's good for New York, good for everybody. But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have, hopefully, a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Well, at least let's hope so. I mean, it's pretty hard not to find Trump very likable. So I'm sure they had a very good conversation. So C-SPAN looks like a back and forth questioning. So I'll just play out the video. It's about 23 seconds.
He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Mm-hmm. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
And I wanted to ask you also...
I mean, now I already know where the Democrats or the mainstream media is going to take that. Oh my God, Trump just admitted he's a fascist. Holy shit. Okay, so from the White House, President Trump meets with Zohran Mamdani, mayor-elect New York City. This is the entire video. Maybe I'll just get like the initial few minutes of it, but I'll repost this also.
Great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this.
Okay, we already got that.
A lot of people.
Appreciated the time with the president. I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
President Trump, Stephen Nelson from the New York Post. I've got a question for you and then also one for the mayor-elect. Sure. For you, you've referred to Mr. Mamdani as a communist. Could you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting?
Because he embraces socialism, dude.
If he visits New York.
That's where socialism leads.
Well, we didn't discuss your second part of the question. And on your first part, I mean, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot. From when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually. And some very liberal people, he won't surprise them because they already like him.
And for Mr. Mamdani, it sounds like you had a productive discussion, but just days ago you referred to President Trump as a despot who had betrayed the country. You said you'd be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these
dirty
remarks
politics
in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
Mr. President, Anthony Mershak from MTV Lebanon. I would like to ask you a question about the Middle East regarding, you said that Hezbollah in Lebanon is not in a good position. And Lebanon now is the final unresolved after Gaza and Syria. Given your assessment, like, what do you say for the Lebanese today? It's the Independence Day in Lebanon. And what is your next move to push toward disarmament?
Okay, all right. So it sounds like they're going to start getting into other questions. So again, that'll be linked below. So as far as like lowering the cost of living, wouldn't that open the door to millions of Americans who've always aspired to be New Yorkers to move to the Big Apple because now it's affordable? So now you got all these liberals who never thought that they can move there because rent's like $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month. And if somehow he's able to lower the rent down to, I don't know, like $800 a month, wouldn't that just open the door wide open to millions of Americans moving to the Big Apple because now they can afford to? But it's just a question. It's just simple supply and demand. If there's a very short supply on places to live, of course, the demand is going to go up and therefore the cost is going to go up. It's just how things work. So I don't know what he's going to do. I know that they've thrown around the word or the phrase rent freeze. So, you know, whatever that means, I guess as long as you're living in the place in New York and you're making less than God knows how much, $100,000, that's probably poverty in New York City. Then I guess you could just live wherever you're living for free. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. All right, RNC Research, Aftyn Behn is under fire after being exposed for hating Nashville, the city she's seeking to represent in the Tennessee 7 special election. Nashville voter, quote, Why would we put someone in office that doesn't like Nashville and spoke the way she did about Nashville? Yeah, that's a very good question that everybody, including Democrats living in Nashville, should be asking themselves. You would think.
New tonight, a clip from a 5-year-old podcast coming back to bite 7th District Congressional candidate Aftyn Behn. She said in that podcast, "I hate Nashville," and her comments didn't end there. Fox 17 News' Karen Aguilar here with more on Behn's comments and how voters and others are reacting.
This is a very hot button issue right now as the race tightens between the two congressional candidates. Democratic candidate Aftyn Behn is at the center of controversy. According to the Tennessee Holler's social media post, Behn was one of the hosts of a podcast called Grits on the Tennessee Holler Podcast Network. She is heard saying this in part on a February 2020 episode, quote, "I've been heavily involved in the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate country music, I hate all the things that make Nashville apparently
yikes, man.
an it city."
Holy shit.
Quote. Voters are divided.
Why the hell would anybody vote for that?
Why would we put someone in office that doesn't like Nashville and spoke the way she did about Nashville?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I don't live in Nashville, but I sure as hell wouldn't be voting for her if I did. This one from the same GOP, Tennessee Democrat Aftyn Behn, who is running to represent Nashville in Congress, is desperately trying to walk back her music city hating comments. This is next level gaslighting.
Republicans decided that they're going to start this narrative that me, the state representative who represents downtown Nashville, doesn't like the city.
Because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently.
Okay, well, you heard it from her. Yeah, that is classic textbook gaslighting. Oh, I didn't say that. Don't believe your lying ears. Okay, Senate Republicans busted John Ossoff's lies to Georgia keep getting exposed. Ossoff bashed billionaire money as corruption on steroids, but has been raking in campaign cash from the likes of the far-left liberal Soros family. And this comes from Fox News. Unearthed FEC records expose vulnerable Dem senators' hypocrisy on taking cash from billionaires. We can't just become mere guardians of the status quo, Senator Ossoff said about big money in politics. And let me take a look. So I just want to get straight to the money. The vulnerable senator up for re-election 2026 has received nearly $500,000 from billionaires, including more than $154,000 just this year in 2025. The Federal Elections Commission filing has found. And is that really the nitty-gritty of it? Ossoff's campaigns have received contributions from over 70 billionaires since 2017. When Ossoff first ran for Congress, he's touted his refusal to accept corporate PAC money, but according to election finance watchdog Open Secrets, some of Ossoff's top individual contributors come from major corporations like Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta. Open Secrets also showed that in 23 and 24, Ossoff received thousands of dollars from political action committees representing lawyers and lobbyists, miscellaneous businesses, agribusiness, and labor. And let's see, he's repeatedly ripped the influence of the wealthy political donors and said they have no place in politics, even though he's taken plenty of money from them. Let's see, he's still taking campaign cash from billionaires, and just last month he featured Democratic Illinois J.B. Pritzker, whose estimated worth is over $3.5 billion, on a fundraising email soliciting donations for his re-election campaign. Let's see, small donors. Okay, so Georgia's senator released his campaign's most recent quarterly filing with the FEC, touting his re-election juggernaut was overwhelmingly powerful by small donors with an average of $36 from approximately 233,000 donors. So let's see, but more than 80% of the money he raised during the last filing period came out of state, not even from Georgia, FEC records showed. Meanwhile, over half of his maxed out donors hailed from California, New York, or the DC, Maryland, Virginia region, because they put party over country. It's because the Democratic Party is a communist party. They've become the party of communism. They don't care where the money comes from. They just want the money just to clinch their power. That's it. This is all about power. Anyway, so if a donor is not given an aggregate of at least $200, that donor's contribution remains undisclosed in FEC filings. So he's running for re-election in a state Trump won in 2024, albeit by a thin 2-point margin. He first arrived in Congress in 21 after defeating incumbent Senator David Perdue, Republican Georgia, in a razor-thin election that required a runoff. During that first election cycle, Ossoff reportedly raised 60% of his contributions from outside the state of Georgia. Well, it looks like currently it's 80% now. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, man, they just want power. That's all they want. They want to rule D.C. and the United States of America with an iron fist. Speaker Mike Johnson, incredibly, 98 Democrats just voted against denouncing the horrors of big government socialism. The forced famines, the forced jailing, the killing fields, over 100 million lives lost. It's always made the lives of innocent people worse and failed miserably everywhere it has been tried. House Republicans made it clear America will never embrace Marxism. Democrats refuse to say the same. And this is on agreeing to the resolution, HCON Resolution 58. Republicans, 199 voted yes. For some reason, there were 20 no votes. And Democrats, 86 voted yes, but the majority voted no. So Democrats keep sliding more and more into socialism. That's the direction that they want to be taking things. And Rep. Richard Hudson, 98 House Democrats just refused to denounce socialism. This is their party now. I proudly voted yes to condemn the brutal record of socialist regimes that have killed millions and to stand up for America's founding principles, liberty, property rights, and free enterprise. Denouncing socialism. And we've got House Republicans, socialism has no place in America. Today, House Republicans were proud to support a measure rejecting socialism and all the lives of socialists. Thank you to Rep. Maria Salazar for introducing HCON Res 58 to denounce socialism. No socialism, no socialism. Another one from House Republican socialists like Bernie and AOC think they can get away with their radical policies because Americans don't even know what socialism is. They're wrong. Socialism is the deadliest ideology in history, killing more than 100 million people.
Tell you a secret. Most people don't really know what capitalism is. Most people don't even know what socialism is. Sometimes the label doesn't matter.
There's all of this fear-mongering
Most
that
people
government
don't know.
is going
They
to
do
take
know
over
capitalism.
every corporation and
Because
business,
we live right in the middle
every
of it.
form of production.
Folks like Representative Ocasio-Cortez have also a great message.
A recent Gallup poll showed that over half of Democratic voters prefer socialist-aligned figures like yourself, like AOC, like Mamdani.
Why is socialism cool again, Bernie?
Because he's a power-hungry shill. That's why. That dude is obsessed. He is desperately obsessed with power. And I don't know how many times he's been to China, but I bet he's been there quite a few times. I know he honeymooned in the USSR. I mean, who the fuck honeymoons in the USSR? What the fuck? All right, Steve Scalise, 100 Democrats just refused to denounce socialism and its horrific consequences. Well, technically it's 98, but who's counting? This radical ideology has taken hold not just in New York City, but throughout the Democratic Party. House Republicans will never let socialism destroy our freedom and take over America. That's why you got to cling on to that Second Amendment for dear life. And RNC research, 98 Democrats just refused to denounce socialism. Why can't Democrats condemn socialism? Because they are socialism. They are the party of socialism. 98 House Democrats voted against denouncing socialism. I'm sensing a pattern here. All right, House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. There shouldn't be any controversy here. Socialism sucks.
As Republicans and Democrats, members of the Subcommittee of Western Hemisphere, that Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela is a threat to democracy in the Western Hemisphere. Not only that, I think that you forgot to mention that he is the head of one of the drug cartels called the Sons Cartel. Not only that, he was indicted in 2020 in a federal grand jury for drug trafficking. He stole the elections 70-30, and the legitimate president of Venezuela is hiding in a tunnel somewhere in Caracas, waiting for the United States to do what we need to do, which is to maintain this hemisphere free for fair elections and for democracy and for freedom. I think that you agree with me, don't you?
Thank you,
I think that you missed out on saying those.
Of course, and I look forward to a hearing on that matter at our next.
And we will,
next week.
and I'm sure that you will be here. Thank you very much for your words. Now,
I mean, why do you think Democrats hate Argentina so much these days? Because they're polling to the right. And that's why they embrace countries like Brazil, which has gone far left. From the White House, quick break from the Oval because he's still grandpa. So there's President Trump playing catch with his grandson. So that was posted today by the White House. And we'll just move it along to U.S. DOT rapid response. The Trump administration threatens to withhold $75 million from Pennsylvania over immigrant truck drivers. And that's the same story as what happened in California. So we will Start here with the Trump administration threatened Thursday to withhold nearly $75 million in funding if Pennsylvania does not immediately revoke what the administration claims are illegally issued commercial driver's license to immigrants. The move by U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to target Pennsylvania follows similar action against California. Both states are run by Democratic governors who have criticized President Trump's administration and are viewed as potential top-shelf contenders to be the party's 2028 presidential nominee. Duffy has made it a priority to scrutinize how the licenses are issued since August, when a tractor-trailer driver not authorized to be in the U.S. made an illegal U-turn and caused a crash in Florida, killing 3 people. That incident thrust the issue into the public's consciousness. So in a statement Thursday, DOT spokesperson Dana Almeida said all states were being reviewed. So it'll go on from there. So $75 million if they don't play ball and revoke those licenses. And U.S. DOT Rapid Response exclusive, Trump awards massive checks to air traffic controllers who worked in the shutdown. And I think it was 700 and something. It was quite a number. Yeah, 776 air traffic controllers and technicians received a $10,000 award for their unpaid work during the shutdown, which was 43 days in total. The money will come from quote-unquote operating funds. And these quote, who's this from? This is from Secretary Sean Duffy. Quote, these patriotic men and women never missed a beat and kept the flying public safe throughout the shutdown. Democrats may not care about their financial well-being, but President Trump does. This award is an acknowledgement of their dedication and a heartfelt appreciation for going above and beyond in service to the nation. So very good news that happened, I suppose. I mean, look, I think it's good news in the way that we're looking at a potential government shutdown at the end of January when all this crap will come right back up again with regard to the healthcare argument. And if Democrats shut down the government again, you're probably going to see a lot more air traffic controllers showing up to work in hopes that they get a $10,000 check. That's all I'm saying. Senate Republicans, what a joke. Nothing says blue-collar champion like Sherrod Brown cozying up to Hollywood bigwigs and their checkbooks. Tinseltown toasts Sherrod Brown. A dozen Hollywood bigwigs are throwing a fundraiser for Ohio Senate candidate Sherrod Brown, the former senator and blue-collar champion who is running against Republican Senator John Husted in a race that will likely cost his campaign over $100 million. The soiree, hosted by Sony Pictures CEO Tom Rothman and his wife Jessica Harper, will take place December 9th. The invite helpfully suggests a $10,000 contribution to Brown's Ohio Grassroots Victory Joint Fundraising Committee. Co-hosts include Ari Emanuel, producer Mark Gordon, and wife Sally Whitehill, filmmakers Phil Lord and Chris Miller, producers of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Motion Picture Association president Charles Rifkin. So there you go, man. That's a lot of big money from Hollywood. That's what they need to win, apparently. From Rapid Response 47, the Secretary LCD, Lori Chavez de Raymer. We saw in this report the labor participation rate is up. That is exciting. 20,000 of the 119,000 jobs were in construction. And now the good policies from the Working Families Tax Cut go into effect. You're going to start to see those manufacturing jobs tick up.
The president has been clear in the America First policies and all of the things that you mentioned just previous to this question. When you think about it, what we have been hearing is consumer confidence is up. People are wanting to work. We saw in these numbers and in this report, labor participation rate is up. That is exciting when you think about all of the things that the Department of Labor has been doing, making sure that we're investing in skilling and reskilling the American workforce, working with our career and technical education and our community colleges, recognizing that the trades are mortgage-paying jobs, and making sure that we can build the data centers, that we have the tradesmen and women ready to go. The president has been clear, $18 trillion, the commitments that have been made, 20,000, Sean, of the 119,000 jobs have been in construction. And now we'll see, as the good policies from the working family tax cut, you're going to start to see those manufacturing jobs tick up. You're going to start to see the economic growth in this country, and that's good for the American people. So I'm excited as the Labor Secretary to continue on my 50-state tour and recognize that we are on the right track. President Trump had it right. We're going to invest in the American men and women, and he is the president of the American worker today.
All right. Well, he started playing that commercial music pretty early on. But, yep, she got everything she needed to say. From the U.S. Department of Labor, trust Trump. Under President Trump, we're reversing the damage done to our nation by the Biden administration and building an economy that puts our workers first. And that comes from Breitbart. And ABC News and CBS News. And ABC News says jobs report blows past expectations, defying hiring slowdown. And from CBS News, employers added 119,000 jobs in September, blowing past expectations. So they're showing sources both from the left and the right. BLS labor statistics, employment up over the year in 221 of the 372 largest U.S. counties, March of 2025. And this is from the BLS data, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So the blue is a 2.5% and higher change. And of course, red is the worst at negative 2.5 and lower. But there's a lot of orange. That's minus 2.4% to basically no movement. And yellow, green, and blue is a positive movement. So looks like in the majority of the country, there wasn't really a whole lot of movement. But, you know, like you can't expect an explosion in job growth in every single county in America. I mean, at least it's not all in the red, or for the most part. House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. Next time someone tries to deny the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, show them this video. And this was posted 10 hours ago. Earlier this year in June, heavily armed Fulani jihadists slaughtered hundreds of Nigerian Christians in cold blood overnight in Yawata. Mrs. Marshurima Ape is one of the survivors here to tell the story. So it looks like they have it transcribed, but we'll give this a listen.
We do have a video I'd like to show. This is of Mrs. Aftyn, a survivor of the Yawata massacre. She lost 5 of her children. The baby in her hands is her one remaining child, but she and so many others who were slaughtered that day, her family. We hear from them, we hear from her, the priest in the picture, that the horror is, the PTSD from that is just unthinkable. And so I just want to, it's a very short.
Yeah, dude, you think PTSD is bad
morning,
here?
Good afternoon, good evening. It depends on where you're watching us from. I am Reverend Father Philip Apple, the coordinator of the Foundation for Justice, Development and Peace, FJDP, of the Catholic Diocese of Makurdi, Benue State, here in Nigeria. I am here with one of the survivors of the Yelwater massacre of 13th of June 2025 here in Nigeria, where we lost over 200 lives in a single night. So she is here to be witness as one of the survivors of that grave attack. So we'll listen to her. That her name is Nsushima Akwen. That when they went into sleep that fateful night, around 9 p.m., the Fulani terrorists attacked them where they were sleeping. That they were locked inside the camp at Yelwater, and they were butchering them with cutlasses and shooting guns as well. When they thought all had finished at some point in time, they poured petrol on the building, and majority of them were set ablaze.
Oh, good grief.
That in the course of this action, she saw a tree up when she lifted up her eyes, and she raised her hands, head on the tree, climbed up where she was able to hit herself. That her 5 children that she left below were crying, and in her presence, they were being slaughtered by the terrorists.
Wow, man. Unbelievable.
That she ran out into the bush at some point, and those who came for rescue would now bring her out of that place at some point, and she was able to witness the whole drama. And when the people came, they were now relocated to a new camp. So thank you very much. This is the much we can receive from Msoshima Akpen. God bless you.
Good grief, man. Unbelievable.
We do have a video I'd like.
Yeah, like he said, man, you think PTSD is bad here. I mean, it's unspeakably bad there. That is awful. So, I mean, just keep playing the videos, man. You'll get America's sympathy, and I think people will warm up to the idea that we really need to intervene in some way or another. I mean, would that mean military involvement? Look, I don't know. I really don't have the answers for all that. I know that Nigeria is a very populated country. I'm pretty sure well over 100 million people live there. So, yeah, if we were to do any military intervention, I doubt it's going to be more than just a couple hundred boots on the ground. I think it would probably have to be some more widespread, invasion type thing. But what do I know? I don't know anything. I just hope it doesn't come to that. Not exactly sure where we go from here, but I mean, definitely the committees in Congress, they're paying close attention to it. Our ambassadors are paying close attention to it. And most importantly, President Trump, they've got his eyes on it too. So we'll see where that goes. Nigeria is now labeled as a country of particular concern, which is, it's an official designation from the U.S. government. And I think that means that our military and the eyes of the federal government are paying close attention. And I don't know, man, we'll probably act in some degree or another in the near future. Okay, moving on. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. This story is 100% fake news, and the White House repeatedly told this to CNN in the strongest possible terms, yet they wrote the story because their ratings are dying, so they thrive off drama that does not exist. The truth is, President Trump could not be happier with his cabinet. Shame on you, CNN. And this is from Priscilla Alvarez. New, the White House is preparing for possible turnover in the cabinet after President Trump preaches the one-year mark of his term. At least one of the agencies that could see changes is the Department of Homeland Security. Not so sure that's actually true. I mean, I haven't really seen anything like, especially not dramatically bad going on, especially not in the Department of Homeland Security. They seem to be on top of everything that they're engaged with. So the White House is preparing for possible turnover. Trump's cadre of secretaries, administrators, and directors that form the official cabinet so far have been relatively steady. By design, his officials close to the president aim to avoid the imagery of Trump's turnover-filled first term in office. But that could change as he completes his first year back in office in January. So what, they're just assuming because it happened in the first term, he's just going to keep doing that again? It's going to be like a revolving door in his cabinet. At least one of the federal agencies that could see the changes, the Department of Homeland Security, the federal agency helmed by Kristi Noem, that is charged with executing Trump's campaign promise of mass deportation. Sources also said there could be turnover in the Department of Energy, currently run by Chris Wright. Not sure why on that either. Former Colorado fracking executive whose relationship with the White House has frayed in recent months. I mean, I haven't noticed that at all with Chris Wright. I mean, I've only heard praise, which of course, if there is any fracturing happening, it's not going to be out in the spotlight. If there's anybody I would be looking at, it would probably be AG Pam Bondi. If I'm being honest, that's the only person in his cabinet that he's gotten vocally pissed off at in public. I mean, everybody else he seems to be perfectly happy with, at least in my opinion. While there are ongoing discussions, officials stress that no decisions have been made and the cabinet is expected to remain the same at least through the start of the next year. So, I mean, it'll go on from there if you want to read the rest of it. According to the White House press secretary, it's just a trash rag for the most part, but it'll be in the description if you want to read it. And again, got another one from the White House. Democrats' coordinated video message to our national security apparatus is seditious and dangerous. Quote, the sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command, and if that chain of command is broken, it could lead to people getting killed. It could lead to chaos. Let's hear what she has to say.
You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders.
Sorry, I was muted. It's really annoying when they keep dancing back and forth with regard to this, that they need to be asked, like, what illegal orders are you all referring to? These 6 Democrats that did this video, and they're not coming up with anything at all. And if there aren't any, well, then there's really no point on the White House commenting on it either, because there are no illegal orders that they're they're suggesting that they defy. So it's really just a giant nothing burger. And frankly, it's frustrating that they keep going on with this.
Sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3
essentially
active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos. And it.
Well, look, frankly, if there is an unlawful order that military is receiving, if it is legitimately an unlawful order in every conceivable way, then follow the chain of command. Do what you're supposed to do if you're receiving an unlawful order. Of course, those Democrats who did the video, they didn't explain what you're supposed to do with an unlawful order that you receive. Who exactly do you take it to? What is the chain of command? They didn't go into any of those details. They just said defy it. If you get an unlawful order, just defy it. Just don't do it. Just simply don't do it.
Could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as
they were baiting
members
Trump,
of our
and it
military,
fucking worked.
as veterans,
That's what they were
as
doing.
Former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message, and it perhaps is punishable by law.
Yeah, Trump just needs to quit to quit grabbing at him like it's a low-hanging fruit. I wouldn't even give him the time of day if I would assume if he were to do it all over again, he probably would ignore it, because that video they put out got very little attention. And that's exactly what they're doing, because Democrats are already on the losing side with the whole Epstein scandal. I mean, it's only Democrats that have come out in the public who have been wrapped up in Jeffrey Epstein thus far. So, and they're already losing the argument with regard to healthcare, because it's pretty hard to argue that you're not fully responsible for Obamacare, and also trying to pin the shutdown on the Republicans, which obviously they needed Democrat senators in order to reopen the government. And that was clear as crystal, which is why Chuck Schumer caved, and they got absolutely nothing out of the shutdown, and they had to reopen it. They got zero, nothing. The $1.5 trillion, they didn't get a penny of it. And they didn't get the Obamacare subsidies that they wanted. They got nothing. So right now, what Democrats are doing, they're trying to lob like the most like low IQ, brain dead nonsense out there, hoping that Republicans or Trump himself will grab onto it. And in this case, he fucking did. And it's really frustrating. All right, moving on. Rapid response 47. I'm not threatening them, but I think they're in serious trouble, says the president on Democrat members of Congress encouraging members of the military to defy orders. Okay, so I guess we're not moving on just yet. These are people that, in my opinion, broke the law. So let's hear this.
If you look at sedition, if you look at, that type of, that's a very strong form of being a traitor. It's a terrible thing to say. I must tell you, I heard it, and I thought it was some kind of a comedy situation. I thought that it was some kind of a skit, and because I couldn't believe that they'd say it.
Well, it basically
and I watched
was.
Democrat congressman and one Democrat senator yesterday on one of the shows. Didn't even want to discuss it. They said, whoa, don't get me into that one. They don't want to get into it. That is a really
Yeah, he's talking about the Fox
charge.
News interview.
I'll tell you what they said is, and it was, I mean, I don't know about the modern day thing.
Yeah, he's talking about the interview on Fox News where I believe it was the Democrat senator which was one of those 6 that did that video on like if you're a member of the military, defy orders if they're illegal orders. Well, on Fox News, they were pressed, well, what orders are you talking about? Just give us an example of one order that President Trump has issued that they should defy. Like, just name one, and he wouldn't answer it because there are none. They have none to answer. It was a stupid, it was a rage bait, clickbait style video, and they were successful at it because they got Trump talking about it.
Modern day is a lot softer, but in the old days, if you said a thing like that, that was punishable by death.
Yeah, but you're not threatening them. A lot of people are interpreting there's a threat and there's security.
Well, of course I'm not threatening them, but I think they're in serious trouble. I would say they're in serious trouble. I'm not threatening death, but I think they're in serious trouble. In the old
they
days,
took it that way.
Death.
Do you worry, Mr. President?
Seditious behavior.
Do you worry
that was a big deal.
Oh, they're going to try to impeach him over that.
Nothing's a big deal. Today's a different world, okay? It's a softer, it's a meeker, milder world. But I will say this. I think what they did is really bad. The hatred is pretty strong. But what they say, essentially don't follow the orders of the President of the United States?
Well, they said don't follow unlawful orders.
Do you worry?
They didn't say don't follow orders.
Young privates and young corporals
and this is the
and
problem.
young sergeants, and they're not scholars necessarily. There might be a few, frankly, but they're not scholars. They don't.
Oh, dude, come on, dude. Just let this shit go. All 6 of them who did that video, they all served in the military, and a couple of them served like 20 years in the military. So that they're going to immediately push back on what he said there by saying that.
Study the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. They know that. So these are people. These are bad people. These are people that, in my opinion, broke the law. Now, what happens to them, I can't tell you. But they broke the law. That is a terrible statement.
They didn't,
I can say,
unfortunately.
If I ever said that, and there were a Democrat as president, all hell would have broken loose. And it has broken loose. I have had more calls from people, even Democrats, saying what a horrible thing that was.
No,
well,
you should have just left it alone, man. You should have just left it alone. Technically, they didn't break the law because they said that if you receive illegal orders, then you are required to defy them. That was the message they were saying. But of course, they framed it. They were walking that razor's edge, and they just framed it in a way that just made it look like that they were essentially instructing members of the military to defy Trump's orders when they didn't exactly say that. They didn't break the law. They know what the fuck they're doing. And clearly it worked. It worked quite well because now Trump's dug himself into a hole over this nonsense because they are going to try to impeach him over it. Freaking Rep. Al Green, for the 5th fucking time, he's coming out and saying that he's gonna file articles of impeachment against Trump over this exact situation. It's freaking ridiculous. Anyway, Homeland Security, this is a prime example of the journalist class constantly patting themselves on the back for intentional misrepresentations and calling it journalism. It has always been forbidden for swastikas or nooses to be displayed in the Coast Guard. The only people who didn't know that are those pretending to be journalists. Washington Post and CNN want you to believe that somehow their reporting caused a reversal of course in the U.S. Coast Guard. It did not. What it does do is maliciously malign our brave men and women who go to work every day to keep America safe. So here we go.
New this morning, it appears the U.S. Coast Guard reversed course after the Washington Post reported the...
You see how they instantly set up that framing. It appears that they reversed course. No, there is no appearance. They didn't reverse course. This has always been their policy. They changed the phrase from hate speech to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but they got rid of the term hate speech. And they replaced it with like, I don't know, like, oh, fuck, man. I wish I had that offhand. But
Coast
anyway,
Guard
they replaced certain language in it.
Symbols
it's always
like
been
swastikas and nooses as potentially divisive.
That's what it was, potentially divisive. That's what they changed it to. They changed it from hate speech to potentially divisive. And as such, swastikas and nooses and all these hate symbols, they are categorically against anything and everything that the U.S. Coast Guard stands for. And if you're caught using any of those hate symbols, you will be dealt with severely, as the U.S. Coast Guard said in their statement. And that's that.
Hate symbols. After saying the report was false in a late-night memo, the Coast Guard said divisive or hate symbols and flags are prohibited, adding that includes a noose or swastika. In a statement obtained by CNN, the Coast Guard said the claims that the U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas, nooses, or other extremist imagery as prohibited symbols are categorically false. Joining me now is Tara Kopp. She broke the reporting on this story in the Washington Post.
She broke the reporting? You mean the lack of reporting?
New statement overnight.
The fake news propagandist herself.
I'm sure you're well aware. It says this is not an updated policy, but a new policy to combat any misinformation and double down what the U.S. Coast Guard forbids these symbols. Give me your sense of what your reporting was.
Yeah,
what
so they're doubling down. It's not a new policy.
And how this has progressed from there.
It might be an updated policy.
Well, good morning. And as one Coast Guard official reached out late last night when this latest policy dropped, this represents the fastest policy turnaround in military history.
There is no turnaround. She's full of shit.
What we found with the original
no turnaround. It's always been their policy, as what it just said on the screen, what it states. This has always been their policy. There was no
policy
turnaround.
Posted online that was going to go into effect December 15th that would have said that nooses and swastikas were no longer hate symbols. They were potentially divisive. And that was upsetting across the board. I think we saw his reaction from lawmakers, from service members, from veterans yesterday. No one who has served, who is aware of the history of our country, finds that either a noose or a swastika is just potentially divisive. It's something that thousands of Americans have given their lives to fight against for racism and fascism. And it was just an unforced error in so many ways yesterday.
Look, the Coast Guard isn't part of the Defense Department, but this is a change that and a reversal that comes after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced plans to address policies he considered as too woke. Is this all playing
it's called diversity,
into
equity, inclusion,
what
fucko.
you have discovered
That's
here?
exactly what they should be doing, is purging all that shit.
Our understanding is the wording changes that were put into this now old policy that had never even taken effect. The Coast Guard...
Well, wait, old policy that never took effect. Well, who came up with that policy? What is it? I don't know, probably in the Biden administration under this DEI bullshit, which is exactly what they are working on undoing, and the whole subject of this whole conversation, that the Coast Guard is rolling back all of that language bullshit, all that DEI bullshit that they put in during the Biden administration, and they're reinstating what everything had already stated in their codes of conduct. They're just reinstating it to how it's always been. And they're just getting rid of all of this DEI bullshit.
Shortly after the former Commandant Linda Fagan was fired by Trump, the Coast Guard pulled this policy and started to revise
Why was he
it.
fired? Why was he fired by Trump?
What was posted online
No, we don't get into all that.
a result of that work. The incoming, if he is confirmed, Admiral Lunde took very strong language last night to say, you know what? The nooses and the swastikas, they are not only prohibited, they are hate symbols.
Duh.
And this new 2-page memo that was dropped around 10 o'clock last night now supersedes anything else that's out there. So the Coast Guard has responded in a very clear way that this language that got in there is not acceptable to them, but it still raises all sorts of questions.
Oh, bullshit. No, it doesn't.
Authored
it only raises the questions about the last administration.
Potentially divisive. How did it get through legal review? How did it get through leadership review? And how did it get posted online to defense.gov?
Because the majority of federal employees vote Democrat.
The US
that's how.
Policy was changing on, this hate speech.
Tara Kopp, thank you for your reporting, and thank you for coming on this morning.
Talk about making a mountain out of a molehill. Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar, this entire story is a complete and total lie. The U.S. Coast Guard never reversed anything because the Coast Guard never allowed symbols like swastikas or nooses in the first place. The Washington Post has never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Absolute garbage. Washington Post update: the U.S. Coast Guard reversed course, saying the swastika and noose were indeed hate symbols that are prohibited. This came hours after the Post reported that the service was about to enact a new policy that downgraded those symbols. Wrong, but I'll link it if you want to check it out for yourself, and you can make your own interpretation as to what they're trying to feed all of us. And we'll move on to the next thing from DEA HQ. Green fentanyl. I've never heard of green fentanyl, but apparently it's a thing, at least in New Orleans, aka kryptonite, is a deadly new trend that's hit greater New Orleans area. Law enforcement agencies have seized a new form of fentanyl that poses an immediate threat. And get details from, well, it looks like it's going to be at Instagram. That's a first, at least since I've been doing this show. They haven't tagged a link to Instagram before. So here's one image of this fentanyl, this kryptonite that they're talking about. I mean, this looks just like gravel out of a driveway, but I guess that's supposed to be fentanyl. And there you go. So I don't know, man. That's some dangerous shit. FBI violent extremist network 764 member facing federal indictment. This week, a 20-year-old Maryland man was charged with 3 counts of sexual exploitation of a child, 3 counts of coercion and enticement of a child, and 1 count of cyberstalking. According to the indictment, he was a member and associate of 764, a criminal organization of nihilistic violent extremists who use known online social media communication platforms to support the possession, production, and sharing of extreme gore media and child abuse material with vulnerable juvenile populations. And you can read more about it on justice.gov. Links in the description. And we'll roll on to the next one from Donald Trump Jr. This is what happens when you secure the border, bring illegal immigration to a halt, and put American citizens first. Breitbart News, Golden Age, America's foreign-born population drops by 2.3 million thus far under Trump. 2.3 million people. So far in 2025, which probably will be even more next year. The nation's foreign-born population is continuing to decline, newly released Bureau of Labor Statistics data reveals, as President Donald Trump's administration carries out an aggressive immigration enforcement agenda. The preliminary data analyzed by Center for Immigration Studies Director of Research Stephen Camarota suggests that in September, the 16-year-old and older foreign-born population declined by an additional 101,000. From January through September, the number of foreign-born residents in the United States aged 16 and older has decreased by 2 million. Camarota suggests that the total foreign-born population, including those younger than 16, has declined by 2.3 million. Compare this to the rapid mass migration ushered in under the Biden administration, when the foreign-born population grew by an unprecedented 7.4 million from January 21 to January of 25. On President Joe Biden's watch, a record 52 million immigrants were a part of the total U.S. population, or about 15.5% of the population. Vice President J.D. Vance has credited negative net migration with helping cool down rent and home prices. Quote, "What we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, factories, and things that so many people can have jobs," Vance told Fox News in an interview. "We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you've already seen it starting to pay some dividends." Okay. And U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, father whose daughter was slain by an illegal alien in Illinois writes a letter to the nation. And it says, well, a quote from it says, "I wish every American could read this op-ed because..." Okay, so this is from the ICE director, Todd Lyons. "I wish every American could read this op-ed because then the American people and our critics would know exactly who we're going after and what we are doing." And you can read the letter here, which will be on Fox News. And we'll just play this clip here.
There's an op-ed up on foxnews.com right now written by Joe Abraham, the father of Katie Abraham, who was killed by an illegal alien in January of this year in Chicago. Operation Midway Blitz was named after her. Joe sat with you, met with you, talked about it. And in the op-ed today, he writes this. He says, "I can't help but wonder if any of ICE's critics have ever taken the time to sit across from one of these agents or staff members. If they did, I believe they'd see what I saw, dedicated Americans working tirelessly to make our communities safer." There in Charlotte, where Charlotte's Web is being carried out, you can, of course, recall Irina Zarutska, the young woman killed by an illegal alien. Do you feel like your critics aren't fully taking in perspective on exactly who you're trying to protect?
Yeah, Griff, they're not. And, you know, Joe's a great man. Great father. His family's great. We talk all the time. And I told him when he wrote that, I wish every American can read his op-ed, because then the American people and our critics would know exactly who we're going after and what we are doing, right? I think there's just so much misinformation, misleading information to what the true mission of ICE is, what the men and women bravely do every day and night, 24 hours a day. They're out there getting these public safety threats. And I really hope the American people not only appreciates what ICE is doing, but sees the impact that we're making in these communities.
Yep, little bit at a time. Slowly but surely, they're making a hell of an impact. Over 2 million illegal immigrants have left the country so far. Department of War, Hegseth says designated Venezuelan cartel as terrorist organization will bring new options to the administration. And this is on war.gov. Hegseth says designating Venezuelan cartel will bring new options to the administration during a media interview at the Pentagon that spanned a handful of topics yesterday. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said plans to declare Venezuela's state-embedded criminal network, Cartel de los Sols, a terrorist organization, will bring a whole bunch of new options to how the U.S. deals with narco-terrorists in that region. The cartel, whose name translates to Cartel of the Suns and is alleged to be headed by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, is set to be designated as a terror organization by the State Department on November the 24th. If the designation goes through, Cartel of the Suns will be the 9th such criminal network designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the Trump administration's Executive Order 14157 since February. The terror designation gives more tools to our War Department to give options to President Donald Trump to ultimately say our hemisphere will not be controlled by narco-terrorists, it will not be controlled by cartels, and it will not be controlled by what illegitimate regimes try to push toward the American people. So it's just about options, and we plan better than any organization in the world here, as Hegseth said. No decisions related to countering Maduro's cartel are off the table, he added, but nothing is automatically on the table either. U.S. Southern Command has conducted at least 20 lethal maritime strikes on intelligence-confirmed narco-terrorists in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean since September. Hegseth said it would be inappropriate to discuss whether there are any plans underway to augment those strikes by engaging Venezuela on land. Uh-oh. Again, we have a lot of options. We'll make sure we have the authorities to do so, and we will protect the American people, he said. Well, and what's happening in Central America, where was it? Panama. I think it was at Panama. They're doing on-the-ground training, which I think they do every year, so it may not have anything to do with Venezuela, but our military, they're doing on-the-ground training and survival skills in Central America, and they're also doing urban warfare drills in Puerto Rico currently. So, I mean, there might be an argument to be made that they could potentially be training for some sort of Venezuelan invasion, although we don't know that. They haven't connected those two at all. It's just training. You know, the military, they're always training. In addition to countering narco-terror at sea and addressing the threat posed by Cartel of the Suns, Hegseth also spoke on the Trump administration's concerns about cartel activity in Mexico. We believe that Mexico should address that cartel problem and be really aggressive about it, and they've done so in some quarters. But in others, the poisoning of the American people still continues, and as the president has said, we are going to stop this. He also noted that in addition to all the options the U.S. has in its own hemisphere, it's important to recognize how well the military has countered narco-terrorists over 20 years during the war on terror. Our ability to range and reach narco-terrorists in, say, Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan for 20 years is about as well honored as any machine, better than any machine in the world. Hegseth said, adding, if applying that same pressure is necessary in our own hemisphere, no country would apply such pressure better than the U.S. Quote, nobody would do it better, whether it's on land or in the maritime. So right now, our focus with Operation Southern Spear is these narco-terrorist drug boats and the trafficking. That must stop, Hegseth said, before delivering a cautionary warning concerning any future narco-terror activity. Don't get in a boat because it's going to end poorly for you, he said. And I got this from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement from 12 hours ago. ICE and FBI Texas team up at Tren de Aragua nightclub, which they take down 27 suspected TDA gang members among 150 illegal aliens arrested. Law enforcement also seized cocaine, 3 firearms, and about $35,000. Holy shit, man. Looks like, I don't know, man. Looks like it's a pretty even mix between agents and illegals. They got a bunch of like freaking folded out chairs and everything. So that's quite the operation that they were engaged with at this Tren de Aragua nightclub. I'm assuming it's here at Golf Bar Grill. Okay. In Homeland Security, Jordan Renato Castillo Chavez was released after North Carolina authorities failed to honor the ICE detainer. Castillo Chavez, a criminal illegal alien from Costa Rica, was arrested for indecent liberties with a child, first-degree sexual exploitation of a minor, attempted statutory sexual offense with a child less than 15 years old, and solicitation of a child by a computer. President Trump and Secretary Noem have unleashed ICE to arrest and remove these dangerous predators from our communities.
She didn't know until this week that the suspect was not a U.S. citizen. Now that she does, she believes justice is deportation.
It's hurtful that my child is a victim and they have this person and let him go.
Vermisha Rose says her daughter was 13 years old when she met this man, 29-year-old Jordan Castillo Chavez. Rose found out when she looked at her daughter's phone.
And then there was this message from this guy. I'm like, who is this? And she's like, oh, that's my friend. I just met him online. And I looked at the messages. There were photos. There were messages that indicated like he was coming to pick her up. And I immediately just like dropped, like I fainted, like this is not happening right now.
In March, Pineville police charged Castillo Chavez with indecent liberties and other sex-related charges. He has since bonded out. This week, Customs and Border Protection named Castillo Chavez of Costa Rica as one of the worst criminal illegal aliens, blaming his release on a failed ICE detainer. I asked the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office to respond. They said ICE made a request for advance notification of his release, but said the agency did not issue an ICE detainer. The Sheriff's Office said they did not notify ICE when Castillo Chavez bonded out because they weren't legally required.
This is serious.
Rose says her own father had committed a crime in the U.S. and was deported back to his country years ago, so she understands the impact and believes it's what Castillo Chavez deserves too.
We need justice. He needs to go, and they need to enforce it.
Well, there you have it. You think she might start changing her politics? I would think so. You got to get them all out of here. All these criminal illegals. It's these Democrat politicians. They keep releasing them, keep allowing them to keep roaming the streets where our own children, where we commute, where we walk, where we shop. Got to get rid of them. Tom Emmer, insane. Somalis in Minnesota seem to have been over-diagnosing their children with autism so they can swindle millions of dollars from taxpayers to funnel to al-Shabaab terrorists. Sounds crazy? It is. And it's been enabled by Tim Walz. And he's got a thread. So in September, a Somali woman named Asha Farhan Hassan was indicted for a scheme that swindled Minnesotans for $14 million. The linchpin of the scheme, federally funded autism services for children. And that'll be linked to justice.gov. Goes into the details on that. In 2019, Hassan formed Smart Therapy LLC and registered it as a provider in Minnesota's autism program. Hassan then recruited children from the Somali community for her new treatment center. No autism diagnosis? No problem. An easy fix for a fraudster like Hassan. For 5 years, Smart Therapy billed Minnesota taxpayers millions of dollars for services that were never actually provided. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars received by Smart Therapy were sent abroad, and the rest were used to line the pockets of Hassan and her partners and pay parents kickbacks so they keep bringing their children to the clinic. In the meantime, Somali children became 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than other children in the state, and autism claims to Medicaid jumped from $3 million to nearly $400 million. Shockingly, Smart Therapy is just one of over 80 autism providers currently under investigation. And this is just one thread of Tim Walz's never-ending web of fraud schemes in Minnesota. According to bombshell reporting by Christopher F. Rufo, who works at City Journal, Manhattan Institute, and in Hillsdale, and also R.K. Thorpe, who is an investigative reporter for Manhattan Institute, City Journal, and New York Post. Multiple law enforcement sources say that untold millions have been funneled from Minnesota's Somali community to al-Shabaab terrorists. And that's on cityjournal.org. One source in the City Journal's reporting even claimed the largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. Not only is this a grave national security concern, it's a slap in the face to hardworking, law-abiding Minnesotans. The incompetence and inaction of Tim Walz enable and empower rampant fraud. Under his failed leadership, over $1 billion is estimated to have been stolen from Minnesota taxpayers, some of which may have ended up in the hands of terrorists. Accountability is coming. So anybody keeping count as to how many scandals are going on, how many schemes, how many bombshell investigations are going on? Like, what would this number be? Like 247,381? I mean, it's like every single day there's a whole new scandal that just, it sounds absolutely explosive. If this were to come out 20 years ago, it would be all over the news for days on end, probably a weeks on end. But today, it just gets buried in just the static of scandal. And it's just absolutely incredible. And I've got this from the Department of State. Mass migration poses an existential threat to Western civilization and undermines the stability of key American allies. Today, the State Department instructed U.S. embassies to report on the human rights implications and public safety impacts of mass migration. Mass migration is a human rights concern. Western nations have endured crime waves, terror attacks, sexual assaults, and the displacement of communities. U.S. officials will urge governments to take bold action and defend citizens against the threats posed by mass migration. Officials will also report policies that punish citizens who object to continued mass migration and document crimes and human rights abuses committed by people of a migration background. These issues have plagued citizens of Western nations for years. In the United Kingdom, thousands of girls have been victimized in Rotherham, Oxford, and Newcastle by grooming gangs involving migrant men. Many girls were left to suffer unspeakable abuse for years before authorities stepped in. In Sweden, an Eritrean migrant convicted of raping a 13-year-old or a 16-year-old girl was allowed to remain in the country after a judge ruled that the incident was not an exceptionally serious crime and did not warrant deportation. In Germany, 9 men, several of whom were migrants, were convicted for the gang R of a 15-year-old girl. A German woman who insulted one of the R-worders online was given a harsher sentence than the perpetrators themselves. Wow. U.S. officials will now scrutinize policies in Western nations that give leniency to microcrime and human rights abuses, or that create two-tiered systems that prioritize migrants at the expense of their own citizens. The United States supports the sovereignty of our allies and calls on governments to constructively engage with the growing number of citizens concerned about mass migration. The United States stands ready to assist our allies in solving the global crisis of mass migration. Well, and apparently the officials in these countries where they just allow this to just go on without really anybody noticing or paying attention, really, from an official standpoint, is because they don't want to look racist. They don't want to appear to be racist individuals, because that would just be, oh, so terrible for them. All right. I'm not sure if they'll get anywhere with that, but, you know, at least the Department of State, at least they're talking about it. Travel State Department, and that's on Travel.gov about 12 hours ago. When a child is born outside of the United States but acquires U.S. citizenship at birth through a U.S. citizen parent or parents, we issue a consular report of birth abroad, or a CRBA, to formally document citizenship. For the first time in 14 years, we recently released a newly redesigned CRBA document. The new design features the National Mall and the Tidal Basin in Washington, D.C. during cherry blossom season, and it incorporates the latest security features to prevent fraud and uphold document integrity. Find more information about CRBAs at the following. And that's the image of the new consular report of birth abroad. So they've changed the birth certificate if you're born in a foreign country, but you're still a U.S. citizen. So there you go. Anybody who's born currently, they'll get Marco Rubio's signature, Secretary of State. And we'll move on to US.OIG, or USDOT-OIG. And I believe that's Department of Transportation, Office of the Inspector General, right? Yeah, it is, Inspector Gen. Our audit found that FTA DOT oversight is insufficient to verify timely and proper spending of Hurricane Sandy funds. So I guess you could categorize it as relatively old news, because Sandy was back in 2012, I think, or was it? Yeah, it was 2012, I think. Yeah, because they're talking about January of 2013. So the objectives is to assess the status of the Federal Transit Administration's unexpected Hurricane Sandy funds, and this is an audit report. The FTA's oversight is insufficient to verify timely and proper spending of Hurricane Sandy funds. So what they found, most of FTA's grants with unexpected Hurricane Sandy funds have prolonged project activity. 28 grants in our audit universe have ongoing project activities with completion milestones from April of 25 to July of 2030. They're still working on Hurricane Sandy stuff all these years later. FTA heavily relies on recipient self-reporting to obtain the status of an activity associated with their unexpected Hurricane Sandy funds. They identified 14 grants for which recipients spent a total of approximately $95.4 million for costs incurred after the grants periods of performance ended. This $95.4 million represents question costs, and the FTA's oversight was not sufficient to encourage expedited spending of Hurricane Sandy funds or to reduce the risk of ineligible costs. So let me see. So in January of 2013, the FTA received $10.9 billion for the widespread damage Hurricane Sandy caused to transportation infrastructure when it hit the mid-Atlantic and northeastern United States. And the FTA retained approximately $10 billion of these funds to obligate to grant recipients for Hurricane Sandy-related recovery, relief, and resiliency programs. But in March of 2024, approximately $3.8 billion, or 38% of those funds, remain unspent. Additionally, our agency's prior work identified concerns with FTA's tracking and oversight of its Hurricane Sandy funds, including issues with timely recipient spending of the funds. So they've got some recommendations with regard to the $95 million, and then they've got a sum of $117 million and one of these recommendations is to develop and implement enhanced monitoring mechanisms for all recipients with unexpected Hurricane Sandy funds that focus on identifying and addressing challenges and delays and managing the process or progress of grant project activity and closeout. So there's more in with this if you want to read that in the description below with regard to Hurricane Sandy. So yeah, they're still talking about billions of dollars that haven't been spent with that hurricane. U.S. Commerce Department Secretary Lutnick has signed a landmark MOU with GE Vernova and Hitachi to build small modular reactors, or SMRs, in the United States. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, we're expanding nuclear, creating good jobs, and building a strong America First nuclear supply chain. This agreement is a big step forward for America's energy dominance. A very big step forward, man. Small modular nuclear reactors, man, that could be revolutionary in our energy sector in the U.S. They really could, because they could build them on assembly lines, and they're exactly what they sound like. They're modular nuclear reactors. They can power hundreds of thousands of homes, and they can crank those things off of an assembly line. They're working on it right now. There's actually several facilities. The one that I know of is in Tennessee, but they do have other ones that are under construction in the U.S. that they're going to be working on building these small modular nuclear reactors. And from the U.S. State Department, Near Eastern Affairs, Senior Bureau official Mora Namdar was honored to celebrate the Sultanate of Oman's National Day, Oman Embassy, USA. The United States and Oman share one of the oldest diplomatic relationships in the Middle East, stretching back more than 190 years. We extend our warmest wishes to the people and the government of Oman. I didn't know that we have a long-standing diplomatic relationship with Oman, of all places. So, and I posted this after learning about that. You learn something new every day. So an AI overview on Google AI, the alliance between the United States and Oman has been developing since the signing of a friendship treaty in 1833, making it nearly 194 years old. Former diplomatic relations were established in 1972, and the alliance was significantly strengthened in 1980 when Oman became the first Gulf state to grant U.S. forces access to its military bases, a key part in their long-term strategic cooperation. So yeah, man, U.S. and Oman, very long, very deep roots with our relationship. That's very interesting. All right. Heading to the next topic, the U.S. Navy. There's an update. Navy Recruiting Reserve Command exceeds fiscal year 2025 goals and expands mission success. Navy Recruiting Reserve Command, or NRRC, closed out fiscal year 2025 by surpassing both enlisted and officer recruiting goals and completing its first year integrating active component sailors directly into the reserve component, RC. And we've even got a video. So let's take a look at this. All right. So when Democrats say that nobody wants to join the military under the Trump administration, oh, they are sorely mistaken, man. They're exceeding their enlistment numbers. Okay, David Fotui, the Gulf of America states that, the Gulf of America states have crucial natural resources and economic opportunities that help lift our nation's economy. As chairman of the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Council, or Restore Council, I am pleased with Restore's announcement to provide $400 million in funding to improve water quality and habitat restoration in ecosystems across the Gulf of America region. This ensures our commitment to advancing cooperative federalism and cross-agency partnership to provide clean air, land, and water for every American. So the Restore Council releases 2026 funding proposal to support Gulf Coast water quality and habitat restoration. $403 million proposed for Gulf restoration projects, 19 ecosystem restoration projects across 5 states, major water quality and habitat improvements, large-scale coastal resilience projects. Now, I know a lot of environmental activists down here in Florida, they've been sounding the alarm with regard to Big Sugar for decades at this point, like how they output waste from their processing facilities by dumping it into our water system, whether that's the water table or if it's in the Everglades or out into the ocean, what have you. But the wastewater from those facilities find their way out into the Gulf, and it's, according to them, it wreaks havoc on the ecosystem. So, I mean, if that's really the case, then I'm assuming the government's probably been investigating them for a while, or the EPA's probably got them, under a microscope, I would think. But if that's the case, then I'd be going after them to help pay for some of that money if they're having to restore any damage that was caused from them. So anyway, U.S. Department of Energy Secretary Wright on the Department of Energy efforts to restart a Pennsylvania nuclear plant. This is just one of the things the Trump administration is doing to bring new power online for Americans.
Why was it shut down 6 years ago?
At 3 Mile Island.
We had a bad market design, which we still struggle with a little bit in the electricity world, but we're fixing that as well, that made it so that reactors, when the wind blew, bid in their power at basically free because they were getting paid 4 cents for producing power, even if no one else paid them for them. And it just ended out chipping away at the economics of operating a reactor that can always be on and provide steady baseload power. But there's a lot of things to fix in the electricity grid, and certainly a lot of 4 years of Biden policies that didn't allow affordable, reliable new sources to come on, and in fact was in the midst of shutting down tens of gigawatts of affordable, reliable power. But those days are past us, and this is just one thing that the Trump administration's doing to bring new power online for Americans.
Well, yeah, man, that's what they want. They want renewable energy. In other words, they want unreliable energy. They want us to be at the mercy of the sun, which doesn't shine all the time. I mean, actually doesn't shine for practically half the time. And wind energy. And wind doesn't blow all the time either, which is something every American knows. All right, Johnny Kim, we work hard on the space station, but we also like to relax together. Sometimes we do movie nights in space. Take a look at this. This is in the International Space Station. I'm really digging that green lighting. That's awesome. And yeah, they got a movie night going on. They're on the screen and they do a zoom in. There's one of the astronauts here. Looks like another one down here. Oh yeah, one more here. So, I mean, I guess technically they could sit anywhere. There could be one up here on the ceiling watching it, which I think would probably be upside down probably if they were doing that. But yeah, anyway, doing a movie night. So, I mean, I made a mention. Is any of them space pirates? As in, are they getting these movies by legitimate ways? Or is it potentially maybe they're using, I don't know, torrenting or something like that to download movies illegally on the space station? Space piracy? No, probably not. They're probably watching like Netflix or something. That'd be my guess. I wonder if they're hooked up to Starlink. I don't know if the space station has that capability, because I think Starlink, they actually have to have ground-based stations to try to, or not to try to, but to direct the internet signal between the Earth and to the satellites. So maybe the International Space Station doesn't use Starlink, but maybe they do. All right, and this is from Bethany Stevens. This looks like the last thing I got. So she says the NASA Minute is back, and there's a lot to catch up on. New images of 3i Atlas, and a major milestone for Artemis 2, groundbreaking satellite launches, and the first flight of the X-59, and also celebrating 25 years of the space station. Take a look at this.
From new images of a rare comet, a couple of successful launches, to a major step towards America's return to the moon. I'm back, and we have a lot of space to cover. So here's your NASA Minute, covering all the breakthroughs and progress we've made since we last talked in September. Earlier this month, President Trump nominated Jared Isaacman, a commercial astronaut and entrepreneur, to lead our agency. On Wednesday, NASA released new images of the 3i Atlas comet, the third known interstellar object that's passed through our solar system. We've been closely monitoring 3i Atlas on its journey through our solar system from the moment of discovery, using our fleet of space and Earth-based telescopes to give us multiple views of this rare interstellar visitor. What we learn will help us to unlock some of the outstanding mysteries of our galaxy. Preparation for next year's Artemis 2 mission has passed a major milestone, as teams at the Kennedy Space Center stacked the Orion spacecraft and launch abort system on top of the SLS rocket. Early next year, this spacecraft, named Integrity by its crew, will carry 4 astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission, a 10-day journey around the moon that sets the stage for our return to the lunar surface. Earlier this month, a Blue Origin New Glenn rocket took off from Florida's Space Coast carrying Escapade, a set of twin satellites that are bound for Mars. Set to enter Martian orbit in 2028, this mission will study the red planet's magnetic field and how it interacts with the solar wind, giving us crucial information about how to protect future human missions to Mars. This week, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carrying the Sentinel-6B satellite lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. An international collaboration between NASA and our European partners, Sentinel-6B will provide data about our oceans that is precise down to the inch, helping us improve hurricane forecasts and protect tidal infrastructure here on Earth. Earlier this month, NASA completed the first flight of the X-59 supersonic aircraft at the Armstrong Flight Research Center in California. By flying faster than the speed of sound without a sonic boom, the groundbreaking engineering of the X-59 will pave the way for a new generation of commercial supersonic aircraft, sustaining America's place as the world leader in aviation. And finally, this month, we marked 25 years of continuous human presence on board the International Space Station. For a quarter of a century, the ISS has been a symbol of America's leadership in space alongside our international partners, having been visited by 290 people from 26 different countries and hosting thousands of experiments that have advanced scientific research and technological development here on Earth. Safe to say, we've had an eventful few weeks here at NASA. That's a wrap on your NASA Minute. See you next week.
All right, very cool. Yeah, back when I was in 8th grade, would have been in 1998. I saw one of those capsules under construction at Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. What's that? A capsule? A hatch. It was like one of those hatches that they have that connects one of the vehicles that docks with the International Space Station. They had it in a giant clean room. Couldn't go into the clean room, obviously, but we could watch it from the window on the side. And it was a whole space camp thing. It was like back in the late 90s. But it was to go up on the International Space Station, and it's up there right now. But anyway, so I guess that's all I got for this episode. It's finally Friday. The weekend is upon us. It's going to be an awesome weekend. I'm going to get out and enjoy the weather. It's going to be like in the mid-80s all weekend down here where I live. So I'm going to go out and have some fun, but I'll probably catch up on some things with regard to the show. I'm going to work on some intros and outros and see what I could come up with. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me if you subscribe. And I'll drop a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else in DC. And I also post episodes on X, so feel free to comment there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night and a great weekend, and God bless America.